Stewart, as we can see behind us, the new Edmiston House project has begun, and as part of that, the club will have a fantastic new museum. Can you outline the need for Rangers, first of all, to have this new museum?
Absolutely, Nick. It's fantastic to see the work actually happening. The enabling works have started, the drainage works have started. We've now got the planning permission in place and the building warrants in place for new Edmiston House. So this is a really important project for the club, massive investment for the club going into its 150th year. Key part of that will be the museum, and I think people have talked for many years about Rangers having a museum, and really for a club of Rangers size, I personally and the board also believe that we should have a museum that it's not just something that's going to show objects, it's something that tells the story of Rangers heritage. It's very rich history and heritage that we have to tell, and it's a good story to tell. So delighted that we're getting things up and running on that side of things.
Yes, it's a museum. It'll be a fantastic facility for everyone to enjoy, but probably important to point out it's more than just a building with some cabinets in it.
Yes, like it's very much about telling the story. You know, we've got 150 years of history to tell the story. It's interwoven with the growth of Rangers, is interwoven with the growth of Glasgow and the role that Rangers has played within Glasgow society. So we want to tell the story. We want to make sure that the supporters can maybe learn things they're not aware of about the club. We've got so many things to show as well. You know, there will be plenty of objects there that the supporters will get to see that they've not seen before, and it's been fascinating in the period since we started this project, what's come to light. But also we want to broaden the story out. There are a lot of people come to Glasgow, and we want to be on that tourist trail as well, and make sure that the Rangers Museum is a place that people want to come and see when they come and visit Glasgow.
This is an investment that's really been made, not just in financial terms, but across the club to really protect the club's history as well.
Yeah, this probably started in 2016, 2017, Nick, when I actually asked the question, have we got a list of everything we've got in the trophy room? And we didn't. We do now, but we didn't then. And you think, God, how do we look after this? So that was the evolution of it, that was the genesis of it. We then, Robert Boyle got quite heavily involved from the club, and we worked with a lady called Caroline Mathers, who was involved in developing the Hearts Museum, and through that we recruited Joe Morrison, and Joe came in to look after the collection and build the collection and catalogue the collection. We put Joe through a degree at university. He's just graduated, which is fantastic. He really has put his heart and soul into it, so we're delighted and very proud of what Joe's achieved there. But on top of that, as we realised the project was going to evolve and that the new Edmiston House project was going to evolve, and it was the obvious place for the museum to go, we spent a lot of time working with Glasgow City Council and Glasgow Life and their heads of museums there, Duncan Dornan, and National Galleries of Scotland we've spoken to. We've also spoken to the Glasgow Life. They're currently renovating the borough, so we've been able to tap into that expertise to make sure that we're actually delivering something that there's a market for, and that we can actually get out there and people want to come and see. And on top of that, we've spoken to a couple of consultancy businesses called Dura Consultants and Studio Art, and they're involved in some of the biggest museum projects in Scotland over the last few years. So we feel taking all of that expertise together, it's taken time, and people have maybe heard me talk about Edmiston House for a number of years and wondered when it was coming, but we now know we're getting into it on a very strong footing, and we're very excited about the product that we're going to deliver to the market.
How will this complement what the club already has in the stadium, the historic stadium, with the incredible artefacts and spaces, particularly within the main stand?
I actually feel that the main stand is a bit of a museum sometimes, and you see the reaction we get to the trophy room and the main stand when we have European clubs visiting, and they're blown away by some of the artefacts we've got in there and the history of the club. But this isn't about decanting the trophy room into the museum. This is very much about the two complementing one another. It's about looking at what we do with the stadium tours as well as the museum as well. So it's going to be a tough decision as to what goes in the museum and what goes in the trophy room, but that's something we'll decide in the coming months, and I'm sure that everybody will have an opinion, and importantly we will seek the fans through my jers and through season ticket holders. We'll seek their opinions and their views as to what they would like to see as well.
As you mentioned, the work of Joe Morrison at the club over the last couple of years, what are maybe some of the items that have been uncovered through his work?
Some of the stuff's been incredible. Nick, you think you maybe know what's there, but for example, we uncovered the original model of the Archibald's Leeds original model of the main stand. So you're going back to the mid-1920s, and that's a way to be renovated at the moment. We've discovered some old trophies that we didn't know we had. We've some of the old minutes and the letters and correspondence that we've found has been incredible. One of my personal favourites was Gaza's transfer agreement, for example. We found that from Lazio. So there's been lots of things there that I think the fans will be really excited to see. And I think part of the inspiration for this, whilst we had the idea when we played Spartak Moscow 3 years ago, they had just recently opened a museum, and that made us realise that we had a lot of the old correspondence, the old footage. There's so much rich heritage here that we've got that people don't have the ability to see. And with Joe coming on board, we've been able to secure that, catalogue it. Actually surprised at some of the stuff we've found, and hopefully we can get it on show and let the supporters see that in the near future.
Now the club are looking to add to the collection of memorabilia that they already have. Can you maybe give us an insight into some of the things that the club are looking for?
Yeah, there are some periods of time, particularly more recent, maybe the last 30, 40 years, where we have quite a lot of memorabilia from that time, but we don't really have much from the 50s and the early 60s. During the war years as well, there's not an awful lot from there. So if the supporters or people who have in their collections, they have some memorabilia from that period, we'd be delighted to hear about it. And we're setting up an inbox at heritage@rangers.co.uk, where you should get in touch and mark it for the attention of Joe Morrison and just see if there's something that we can do. There are also, there was a treble winning team in the early 60s. There's one that Jock Wallace's era, for example, there's not an awful lot of stuff from that era. And those two trebles as well in 76 and 78 are periods where we would like to see if anybody's got memorabilia. We'd love to have a chat to you about it and just get the story behind it, because so much of this is about telling the story. As I say, it's not just about putting jerseys and photographs in frames, it's actually about telling the story about Rangers.
And I guess it's particularly important to stress, given COVID etc. at the moment, we can't have supporters turning up the stadium with a boot full of memorabilia. The best way to do it is through heritage@rangers.co.uk.
I mean, we would love the fans coming in. I suspect we might get a tsunami of offers coming in, because I've spoken to so many people myself, people who say, I've got a vast collection of Rangers memorabilia. So no, I think we just ask the supporters to go through that inbox and we'll get into dialogue with you, and then we can see what we can do. And the key thing is that we make the museum as rich as we possibly can to make it as great an experience and a positive experience for people coming to visit.
And just finally, as you've touched on right through the interview, you've personally taken a great interest in this whole project. Just how much does the whole thing mean to you, and how proud are you of the work that's taken place thus far?
I'm very proud. I mean, it's great to see the diggers working away there in the background. That was a fantastic moment for us, because you then know the project's real and it's going to happen. There's a lot of hard work to be done to get it there, but I love just the history of Rangers and the memorabilia. Whenever I go into the archive room, or the trophy room. I mean, trophy room's my favourite room in the stadium. I could spend hours in there. So I've been to various football stadiums. We've actually gone and researched various Premiership clubs as well, and spent a lot of time looking at other museums. And I'm a sucker for all that old stuff. We need to have something that does Rangers proud. And for me, this museum, and having seen the designs and where they're at, and they'll be refined further. Because I say we want to get the supporters' input into that design. And an example being that we've got a painting going into it called the Dream Scene. Now, Dream Scene it's a renowned sports artist called Jamie Cooper, and what we'll do is paint it as though there'll be figures from the past, there'll be figures from the present, and it'll cover some of the club's most historic moments, but all brought into one image, and that'll be in the museum. But we want supporters to tell us what moments they'd like to see covered in that image. And if you haven't seen it, maybe go and look at Leeds United or Liverpool, who've had dream scenes painted by Jamie in the past. But that'll be a key part of the museum there. So there'll be things that'll be a bit unique. We want to make it different, but we want to make sure that the values of the club, the heritage, the history, and the standards are all shown in this museum.